I can still vividly recall the day I decided to take over our family business. It was a crisp autumn morning in our small town of Millbrook, Connecticut. The leaves were just starting to turn, painting the streets in hues of gold and red. I was fresh out of college, armed with a business degree and a head full of dreams. Our family's hardware store, Thompson's Tools and More, had been a fixture on Main Street for over 4 decades, but it was struggling to keep up with the times. As I walked into the store that morning, the little bell above the door jingled, a sound that had been the backdrop of my childhood. The familiar scent of sawdust and metal hit me, and I saw my dad, Tom, behind the counter. He looked tired, the wrinkles around his eyes deeper than I remembered. "Morning, kiddo," he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. That's when it hit me. This place needed more than just a fresh coat of paint. It needed a complete overhaul. I spent that entire day shadowing Dad, watching how he interacted with customers, many of whom he knew by name. Old Mr. Johnson came in looking for a specific type of screw for his antique clock. Mrs. Rodriguez needed advice on which paint would be best for her kitchen cabinets. Each interaction was personal, filled with the kind of warmth you just don't get at big box stores. But I also noticed how Dad struggled with the computer system, how the inventory was a mess, and how we were losing sales because we didn't have what people needed. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with ideas. I got up and started jotting them down in an old notebook. By morning, I had the beginnings of a plan. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to breathe new life into our family legacy. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. I had countless conversations with Dad about my vision for the store. At first, he was hesitant. "We've always done things this way," he'd say. But I could see the spark of hope in his eyes when I talked about modernizing our inventory system, expanding our product range, and even starting an online store. I reached out to my college friend, Sarah, who was working in marketing in New York. She agreed to help me create a social media presence for the store. We spent hours brainstorming over Skype, coming up with catchy slogans and planning local events to drum up business. The first big change came when we decided to renovate the store. I still remember the look on Dad's face when we started moving things around. It was a mix of worry and excitement. We closed for a week, working day and night. My mom, Lisa, and my younger sister, Emily, pitched in too. We painted the walls a warm, inviting yellow, installed better lighting, and reorganized the layout to make it more shopper-friendly. When we reopened, the response from the community was overwhelming. People loved the new look, and word spread quickly. Our first DIY workshop, where Dad taught basic home repair skills, was a huge hit. Seeing the store full of people, hearing the buzz of conversation and laughter, I knew we were on the right track. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Our first attempt at an online store was a disaster. The website crashed on launch day, and we had to refund several orders. I felt like a failure, but Dad put his hand on my shoulder and said, "This is how we learn, son." Those words stuck with me, becoming a mantra for the challenges ahead. As the months went by, we slowly but surely started to see improvements. Our revenue began to climb, and we were able to hire 2 part-time employees to help during busy periods. One of them was Jake, a local high school kid who turned out to have a knack for social media. His TikTok videos showcasing cool tools and DIY hacks brought in a younger crowd we'd never reached before. The real game changer came about a year into our revamp. A new housing development was being built on the outskirts of town, and I saw an opportunity. I reached out to the construction company and negotiated a deal to be their primary supplier for small tools and hardware. It was a risk. We had to invest heavily in inventory, but it paid off big time. With the increased cash flow, we were able to expand our product range. We started carrying more eco-friendly options like low VC paints and energy-efficient lighting. This attracted a whole new customer base of environmentally conscious homeowners. As our business grew, so did our role in the community. We started sponsoring the local Little League team and participating in town events. The annual Millbrook Fall Festival became a highlight, with our store hosting a pumpkin carving contest that drew families from all over the county. But success came with its own set of challenges. As we got busier, I found myself working longer hours, often missing dinners with my celebrated with a big barbecue in the store parking lot, inviting the whole town. As I looked around at the faces of our employees, customers, and my family, I felt a sense of pride I'd never experienced before. But I knew we couldn't rest on our laurels. The retail landscape was constantly changing, and we needed to stay ahead of the curve. I started attending trade shows, always on the lookout for innovative products and new trends in the hardware industry. One such trip led to an unexpected opportunity. I met the owner of a small chain of hardware stores in the neighboring state. We hit it off, sharing similar views on the importance of community-based business. After several meetings and a lot of number crunching, we decided to form a partnership. This allowed us to negotiate better prices with suppliers and share resources, while still maintaining our individual store identities. As our business continued to grow, so did my vision for its future. I dreamed of expanding beyond Millbrook, of creating a network of stores that combine the personal touch of a family business with the efficiency of a larger operation. It was a daunting prospect, but I was energized by the challenge. Looking back on those early days, I'm amazed at how far we've come. That modest family store has transformed into a thriving business, one that's respected in the community and the industry. But more than the financial success, I'm proud of how we've stayed true to our roots. We still know our customers by name, still offer that personal service that big box stores can't match. Every morning, as I walk into the store and hear that familiar jingle of the bell, I'm filled with a sense of purpose. The journey hasn't been easy, and I know there will be more challenges ahead. But I'm ready for them, armed with the lessons of the past and the dreams for the future. This is more than just a business. It's a legacy, a dream realized, and a promise of more to come. The years flew by faster than I could have imagined. What started as a dream to revitalize our family's hardware store in Millbrook had become a lifelong mission. 15 years had passed since that crisp autumn morning when I first decided to take the reins, and looking back, I can hardly believe the journey we've been through. Those early successes with Thompson's Tools and more were just the beginning. As our little store on Main Street flourished, I began to see potential for growth beyond our small town. It wasn't an easy decision, but 5 years into our revamp, we took a leap of faith and opened our second location in the neighboring town of Riverside. I remember the night before the grand opening, sitting in the empty store with Rachel, now my wife. We were surrounded by shelves stocked with shiny new tools and fresh paint smell lingering in the air. Are we crazy for doing this? I asked her, the weight of our decision heavy on my shoulders. She squeezed my hand and said, maybe, but that's what makes it exciting. Her unwavering support had been my rock through it all. The Riverside store was a learning experience in itself. What worked in Millbrook didn't necessarily translate to a new market. We had to adapt, to listen to the needs of a different community. It was challenging, but it taught us valuable lessons about flexibility and the importance of truly understanding our customers. As we expanded, I found myself wearing more hats than I ever thought possible. One day I'd be negotiating with suppliers, the next I'd be troubleshooting our inventory software, and the day after that I'd be training new staff. The long hours were taking a toll, and I realized I needed to build a stronger team if we were going to continue growing. That's when I met Marcus, a brilliant operations manager who had worked for a large retail chain. He brought a level of expertise that complemented my entrepreneurial spirit perfectly. Together, we streamlined our processes, implemented more efficient systems, and laid the groundwork for further expansion. By year 8, we had 5 stores across the state. Our growth was steady, but I was hungry for more. I spent countless nights poring over market research, analyzing trends, and brainstorming ways to stay ahead of the competition. It was during one of these late-night sessions that I had an epiphany. We needed to embrace technology in a bigger way. We invested heavily in developing our own app, which allowed customers to check inventory, watch DIY tutorials, and even place orders for in-store pickup. It was a gamble, and there were plenty of teething problems, but eventually it paid off. The app became a hit, especially with younger homeowners who appreciated the convenience it offered. But success came with its own set of challenges. As we grew, I found myself increasingly removed from the day-to-day operations of individual stores. I missed the personal interactions with customers, the satisfaction satisfaction of helping someone find exactly what they needed for their project. It was a bittersweet realization that my role had evolved from shopkeeper to CEO. To stay connected to our roots, I made it a point to visit each store regularly, to talk with the staff and customers. During one of these visits to our Millbrook location, I ran into old Mr. Johnson, who had been coming to the store since my dad's time. "You've done good, kid," he said, his eyes twinkling. "Your father would be proud." Those words meant more to me than any financial report ever could. The 10-year mark was a milestone we celebrated with gusto. We had grown to a chain of 12 stores, and our online presence was stronger than ever. But I knew we couldn't rest on our laurels. The retail landscape was changing rapidly, with online giants threatening to squeeze out smaller players. That's when we made our boldest move yet. We acquired a small, family-owned chain of hardware stores in the neighboring state. It was a massive undertaking, one that kept me up at night worrying about everything that could go wrong. The logistics were mind-boggling, the financial risk substantial. But I believed in our vision, in the strength of our team, and in the loyalty of our customers. The acquisition wasn't smooth sailing. We faced resistance from some of the employees of the acquired stores who were wary of change. There were cultural clashes, systems that didn't align, and moments when I questioned if we had bitten off more than we could chew. But we persevered, taking the time to listen to concerns, to integrate the best practices from both companies, and to stay true to our core values of community and service. It took nearly 2 years to fully integrate the new stores into our fold, but the effort paid off. We emerged stronger, with a broader reach and a more diverse customer base. Our revenue had more than tripled since the acquisition, and we were now a recognized name across 2 states. But with growth came new responsibilities. We were now employing hundreds of people, and their livelihoods depended on the decisions we made. The weight of that responsibility was sometimes overwhelming. I found myself lying awake at night, mulling over every decision, every projection, every potential risk. Rachel was my anchor through it all. She had a knack for bringing me back to earth when I got too caught up in the business. "Remember why you started this," she'd say. It was never just about the money. She was right, of course. It had always been about building something meaningful, about creating opportunities for our employees and serving our communities. As we approached the 15-year mark, I found myself reflecting on the journey. We had come so far from that little store on Main Street in Millbrook. Now, we had a network of 27 stores across 3 states, a thriving e-commerce platform, and a reputation as one of the most innovative regional chains in the hardware and home improvement sector. But success hadn't come without sacrifices. I had missed more of my kids' soccer games and school plays than I cared to admit. There were times when the business had taken precedence over family dinners and vacations. It was a balancing act I was still learning to master. In an effort to give back and nurture the next generation of entrepreneurs, we started a mentorship program. I found myself energized by the enthusiasm of young business students, eager to learn and full of fresh ideas. It reminded me of myself all those years ago, and I hoped that by sharing my experiences, both the successes and the failures, I could help guide them on their own journeys. As our 15th anniversary approached, we decided to do something special. We organized a company-wide volunteering initiative, with each of our stores partnering with local charities to take on community improvement projects. Seeing our employees out there, painting community centers, building playgrounds, and teaching DIY skills to underprivileged youth, I felt a sense of pride that went beyond any business achievement. The anniversary celebration itself was a testament to how far we'd come. We held it in a large convention center, with employees from all our stores coming together. As I stood on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces, from the veteran staff who'd been with us from the early days to the newest hires full of enthusiasm, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. I thought about Dad, who had passed away a few years earlier. I wished he could have seen what his little hardware store had become. But in a way, he was there, in the values we upheld, in the commitment to customer service that remained at the heart of everything we did. As I addressed the crowd, I emphasized that our success wasn't just about the numbers. It was about the lives we'd touched, the communities we'd helped build, and the team we'd But standing there, looking back on 15 years of relentless dedication, I knew that every late night, every tough decision, and every risk had been worth it. As the celebration wound down and I mingled with our team, I overheard snippets of conversation, stories of first jobs, of promotions earned, of friendships formed. It struck me then that what we had built was more than just a successful business. It was a community, a family of sorts. Later that night, as Rachel and I sat on our back porch, watching the stars and sipping wine, she asked me, "So, what's next?" I chuckled because even after 15 years, my mind was already racing with new ideas, new possibilities. Who knows? I replied, "But whatever it is, it's going to be exciting." The past 15 years had been a whirlwind of growth, challenges, and transformation. We had taken a small, struggling family business and turned it into a thriving regional chain valued at $50 million. But more than the financial success, I was proud of the impact we'd had on our employees, our customers, and our communities. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunities we'd had, for the team that had made it all possible, and for the unwavering support of my family. The journey had been long and often difficult, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. And the best part? I knew that in many ways, we were just getting started. It's funny how life can change in an instant. One moment, you're on top of the world, celebrating years of hard work and success. The next, a single comment can bring everything crashing down around you. That's exactly what happened to me on what should have been one of the happiest days of my life. It was the day after our company's 15th anniversary celebration. I was still riding high on the emotions of the previous night, the pride in our achievements, the gratitude for our team, and the excitement for the future. Rachel and I had decided to have a family dinner to continue the celebrations in a more intimate setting. We invited her parents, my mom, and our kids for a backyard barbecue at our home in Millbrook. The afternoon started off perfectly. The weather was beautiful, with a warm sun and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of blooming flowers from Rachel's garden. I was at the grill, flipping burgers and chatting with my father-in-law, Bob, about our latest business ventures. Rachel was setting the table, laughing with her mom, Linda, as they arranged the salads and sides. Our kids, 12-year-old Emma and 10-year-old Tyler, were playing with their cousins in the yard. The sound of their laughter mixed with the sizzle of the grill and the gentle clinking of ice and glasses. It was one of those perfect moments that you wish you could bottle up and keep forever. As we sat down to eat, the conversation flowed easily. We talked about the anniversary celebration, and I shared some of the highlights, the community projects we'd undertaken, the growth we'd achieved, the lives we'd impacted. My mom beamed with pride, and Bob raised his glass in a toast to our success. That's when it happened. Linda, my mother-in-law, who had been uncharacteristically quiet throughout the meal, suddenly spoke up. "Well," she said, her voice cutting through the warm atmosphere like a cold knife, "I suppose someone has to say it. You're nothing but a useless, freeloading money sucker." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. For a moment, I thought I must have misheard. Surely, she couldn't have said what I thought she said. But the shocked expressions on everyone's faces confirmed that I hadn't imagined it. "Mom," Rachel gasped, her face flushing with embarrassment and anger. But Linda wasn't finished. "Oh, come on," she continued, her voice dripping with disdain. "He takes over a perfectly good family business, and what does he do? He turns it into this soulless chain. Where's the personal touch? Where's the community spirit that Tom built? All I see is a man who's lost touch with what really matters, chasing dollar signs and fancy titles." I sat there, stunned into silence. The burger I had been about to bite into lay forgotten on my plate. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, waiting for my reaction, but I couldn't find the words. How do you respond to something like that? Rachel jumped to my defense, her voice shaking with anger. "How dare you, Mom? After everything we've accomplished, after all the hard work and sacrifices we've made, how can you say something so cruel and unfair?" But Linda's words had found their mark. They burrowed deep into my mind, bringing to the surface all the doubts and insecurities I'd pushed aside aside over the years. Had I really lost touch with what mattered? Had I sacrificed the soul of our family business in pursuit of growth and profit? The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. I remember mumbled apologies, awkward attempts to change the subject, and the eventual, mercifully early departure of our guests. As I cleaned up the backyard later that evening, picking up paper plates and empty cups, I replayed Linda's words over and over in my head. That night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, my mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts and emotions. Rachel tried to comfort me, assuring me that her mother's words were baseless and born out of her own issues. But I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, there was a grain of truth in what she'd said. The next morning, I went through the motions of getting ready for work, but my heart wasn't in it. As I drove to our main office, I found myself taking the long route past our original store on Main Street. I parked across the street and just sat there, staring at the storefront. It had changed, of course. The old hand-painted sign had been replaced with our sleek, modern logo. The windows displayed our latest promotions rather than the eclectic mix of tools and gadgets that Dad used to showcase. It was cleaner, more professional, but was it better? I spent the day in a fog, going through my meetings and tasks on autopilot. My team noticed something was off, but I brushed off their concerns with forced smiles and vague reassurances. How could I explain that my mother-in-law's words had shaken the very foundation of everything I thought I knew about myself and our business? That evening, instead of heading home, I found myself driving to the community center where we had recently completed one of our volunteer projects. As I walked through the freshly painted halls and saw the new playground equipment we'd installed, I tried to reconcile Linda's accusations with the tangible good we'd done here. A voice startled me out of my thoughts. "Mr. Thompson? Is that you?" I turned to see Maria, the center's director, approaching with a warm smile. "I didn't expect to see you here today. Is everything all right?" I forced a smile. "Just checking in on things, Maria. How's everything working out?" Her face lit up as she began to tell me about the impact our project had made. The increased attendance at after-school programs, the joy on the kids' faces when they saw the new playground, the gratitude of parents who now had a safe place for their children to spend time. As I listened to Maria, something began to shift inside me. Yes, our business had grown beyond anything Dad could have imagined. Yes, we'd changed and evolved. But hadn't we also expanded our ability to make a difference? Weren't we touching more lives, creating more opportunities than we ever could have as a single small-town hardware store? Over the next few days, I found myself on a journey of reflection and rediscovery. I visited more of our stores, not as the CEO doing an inspection, but as someone trying to see things with fresh eyes. I talked to our employees, from longtime veterans to new hires. I listened to our customers, really listened, to understand what our stores meant to them. What I found both humbled and heartened me. Yes, we had grown, but our core values hadn't been lost in that growth. They had evolved and expanded. Our employees spoke of the opportunities they'd been given, the skills they'd learned, the sense of pride they felt in their work. Customers shared stories of how our products and advice had helped them complete projects, improve their homes, and even start their own businesses. I realized that Linda's words, as hurtful as they were, had given me an unexpected gift. They had forced me to step back and reevaluate, to reconnect with the heart and soul of our business. And in doing so, I found that we hadn't lost our way at all. We had simply found a new path to achieve our original goals on a larger scale. A week after that fateful dinner, I sat down with Rachel to talk about everything I'd been feeling and experiencing. She listened patiently, her hand in mine, as I poured out my thoughts and realizations. "You know," she said when I'd finished, "Mom's always been resistant to change. She idealizes the past and struggles to see the value in new things. But honey, that doesn't make her right. What you've built, what we've built together, it's amazing. And it's not just about the money or the success. It's about the impact we're making, the lives we're touching." Her words were like a balm to my soul, soothing the last of the doubts that Linda's insult had raised. I realized then that I had allowed one person's narrow perspective to overshadow years of hard work, dedication, and genuine achievement. The next day, I called a company-wide meeting. Standing before our team, I shared my recent journey of doubt and rediscovery. I talked about our roots, our growth, and most importantly, our unwavering commitment to our values. We may not be the small, family-owned store we started as, I said, but we are still a family. A bigger family with a broader reach and a greater ability to make a difference. Every nail we sell, every tool we provide, every bit of advice we give, it all contributes to building something greater. We're not just selling hardware, we're helping people build their dreams, improve their homes, and strengthen their communities. The response from our team was overwhelming. There were nods of agreement, words of support, and even a few tears. I realized that in my own moment of doubt, I had underestimated the depth of commitment and understanding shared by the people around me. In the weeks that followed, we launched a new initiative called Roots and Wings. It was designed to honor our heritage while embracing our future. We started showcasing the history of each store in the communities they served. We implemented a program to support local craftsmen and artisans, giving them space in our stores to showcase and sell their work. And we expanded our education programs, offering more workshops and classes to help people of all ages learn useful skills. As for Linda, well, that took some time to resolve. Rachel and I had several long, sometimes difficult conversations with her. It wasn't easy, but gradually we were able to help her see the bigger picture. We invited her to visit some of our community projects, to meet our employees and hear their stories. Slowly but surely, her perspective began to shift. Looking back now, I can almost be grateful for that bitter insult that shook my world. It led me on a journey of self-discovery and reaffirmation. It reminded me of the importance of staying connected to our roots even as we grow and evolve. Most importantly, it showed me the strength of the foundation we had built, a foundation strong enough to withstand doubt, criticism, and change. That moment at the dinner table could have broken me. Instead, it became a catalyst for growth, both personal and professional. It taught me that success isn't just about numbers on a balance sheet. It's about the lives you touch, the communities you serve, and the values you uphold along the way. In the end, what doesn't break you truly does make you stronger. And sometimes, the harshest words can lead to the most profound realizations. As we continue to grow and evolve, I carry this lesson with me. It serves as a constant reminder to stay true to our core, to never lose sight of why we started this journey in the first place, and to always appreciate the power of what we can achieve when we work together. The morning after our company-wide meeting, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. The weight that had been pressing down on me since Linda's insult felt lighter, replaced by a fire in my belly that I hadn't felt in years. As I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie, I made a promise to myself. This was going to be more than just a comeback. It was going to be a complete reinvention. I arrived at the office earlier than usual, my mind already buzzing with ideas. The first person I encountered was Sarah, our head of marketing, who was surprised to see me there so early. "Good morning, boss," she said, a coffee mug in hand. "You're here bright and early." I smiled, feeling energized. "Sarah, I'm glad you're here. I need you to clear my schedule for the day. We've got work to do." Over the next few hours, Sarah and I holed up in the conference room, brainstorming ideas on how to take our Roots and Wings initiative to the next level. We covered the walls with sticky notes, each one representing a potential project or improvement. As our discussion progressed, it became clear that we needed more voices in the room. I asked Sarah to gather the heads of each department for an emergency strategy meeting. By lunchtime, our conference room was packed with our top team members, all curious about the sudden call to arms. "All right, everyone," I began, standing at the head of the table. "I know this is sudden, but we're at a crucial juncture. We've built something incredible over the past 15 years, but it's time to push ourselves even further. I want us to redefine what it means to be a community-focused business in the 21st century." I shared my vision of a company that wasn't just selling products, but actively participating in and shaping the communities we served. We discussed ideas ranging from partnering with local schools for vocational training programs to launching a microloan initiative for budding entrepreneurs in our communities. "Mark, our operations manager, raised his hand. These all sound great, but how do we implement this without losing focus on our core business? It was a valid question, and one I had anticipated. That's where the wings part of our initiative comes in, I explained. We're not moving away from our core business, we're expanding what that core means. Every initiative we take on should tie back to our fundamental mission of empowering people to build and improve their world. The energy in the room was palpable as ideas began to flow. Emily, our HR director, suggested creating a volunteer program that would allow our employees to spend paid time working on community projects. Jason from IT proposed developing an app that would connect DIY enthusiasts with local experts for advice and mentorship. As the day wore on, our initial brainstorming session evolved into concrete action plans. We divided into smaller teams, each tasked with fleshing out a specific initiative. I moved from group to group, offering input and encouragement, feeling more invigorated with each passing hour. By the time the sun was setting, casting a warm glow through the office windows, we had the beginnings of a comprehensive strategy that would reshape our company's future. As the team began to file out, tired but excited, I felt a sense of pride that I hadn't experienced in years. That night, as I shared the day's events with Rachel over dinner, I could see the pride and excitement in her eyes. You know, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand, I always knew you had it in you to do something like this. Mom's words might have been the spark, but this fire, this has always been you. Her words stayed with me as I spent the next few weeks diving headfirst into our new initiatives. We started with our Community Builders program, which would provide resources, training, and mentorship to local residents looking to start their own businesses or improve their neighborhoods. I personally visited each of our stores to introduce the program, speaking with employees and customers alike about our new direction. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many employees eagerly volunteering to be mentors or trainers. One conversation that stuck with me was with a young employee named Alex at our Riversend store. Mr. Thompson, he said, his eyes shining with enthusiasm, I've always wanted to teach people about home repair, but I never thought I'd have the chance. This program, it's like you're giving us the opportunity to be more than just salespeople. We can be real assets to our community. Alex's words reinforced my belief that we were on the right track. We weren't just changing our business model, we were changing lives and empowering our employees to make a real difference. As the Community Builders program gained traction, we launched our next initiative, the Green Home Project. This program aimed to make eco-friendly home improvements more accessible and affordable for everyone. We partnered with local green energy companies to offer solar panel installations, worked with manufacturers to bring in more energy-efficient appliances, and started offering workshops on sustainable living. The project required a significant investment, both in terms of money and resources. There were moments of doubt, particularly when we saw the initial impact on our bottom line. But I remained steadfast in my belief that this was the right path forward. My faith was rewarded when, 3 months into the Green Home initiative, we started seeing a surge in both foot traffic and sales. Customers were drawn in by our commitment to sustainability, and many who came in for eco-friendly products ended up becoming loyal patrons across all our departments. As our new programs gained momentum, I found myself spending more time in the field, visiting stores, talking to customers, and participating in community events. It was during one of these visits that I had an encounter that would shape the next phase of our transformation. I was at our Millbrook store, helping out with a DIY for Kids workshop we had organized as part of our community outreach. As I was showing a group of children how to safely use a handsaw, I noticed an older gentleman watching from the sidelines, a bemused expression on his face. After the workshop, he approached me. "You're Tom Thompson's boy, aren't you?" he asked, his eyes twinkling with recognition. I nodded, extending my hand. "Yes, sir. I'm David Thompson." He shook my hand firmly. "I'm Frank Miller. I used to be a regular here when your dad ran the place. I'll be honest, I wasn't too happy when you folks started expanding. Thought you'd lose that personal touch your dad was known for." I braced myself, expecting criticism, but Frank surprised me. "But I've got to hand it to you," He continued, "What you're doing here with these programs and all, it's something special. You've managed to grow, but you've also found a way to stay connected to the community. Your dad would be proud." Frank's words hit me hard. It was one thing to believe in what we were doing, but to hear it from someone who had known my father, who had seen the store in its original incarnation, was incredibly validating. As I drove home that evening, I couldn't stop thinking about Frank's comments. It made me realize that while we were making great strides with our new initiatives, there was still more we could do to honor our roots while pushing forward. The next day, I called another meeting with our leadership team. "I want to talk about our history," I began. "We've been so focused on moving forward that I think we've missed an opportunity to celebrate where we came from." Over the next few hours, we developed a plan for what we called the Heritage Project. The idea was to create a small museum space in each of our stores, showcasing the history of the local community and our company's role in it. We would display old tools, photographs, and stories from longtime customers and employees. Additionally, we decided to start a mentorship program that would pair our most experienced employees with newer team members. This would ensure that the wealth of knowledge and the ethos of customer service that had been the hallmark of our business from the beginning would be passed down to the next generation. As these new initiatives took shape, I found myself working longer hours than ever before. But unlike in the past, when the long days had left me feeling drained and disconnected, I now felt energized and more connected to our mission than ever. One evening, as I was leaving the office late, I ran into Maria, one of our longest-serving employees. She was part of the team working on the Heritage Project, and I could see the excitement in her eyes as she updated me on their progress. "You know, David," she said as we walked to the parking lot, "I've been with this company for over 20 years now. I've seen a lot of changes, some good, some, well, not so good. But what you're doing now, this feels right. It feels like we're honoring the past while building something new and exciting for the future." Maria's words stayed with me as I drove home that night. They echoed the sentiment I'd heard from Frank, from our employees, and from our customers. We were on the right path, balancing growth with our commitment to community and service. As the months passed, our new initiatives began to bear fruit. The Community Builders program had helped launch dozens of small businesses in our communities. The Green Home project had not only boosted our sales, but had also positioned us as leaders in sustainable home improvement. And the Heritage Project had rekindled a sense of pride and connection among our longtime customers and employees. But perhaps the most significant change was in the company culture. There was a new energy, a sense of purpose that went beyond just selling products or making a profit. Our employees were engaged, not just in their day-to-day tasks, but in the broader mission of making a positive impact in their communities. As we approached the one-year mark of our company-wide meeting that had kick-started this transformation, I found myself reflecting on the journey. The bitter insult that had once shaken my world had become the catalyst for the most profound and positive change in our company's history. I thought back to that dinner, to Linda's harsh words, and I realized that I owed her a debt of gratitude. Her criticism, as unfair as it had seemed at the time, had pushed me to reevaluate everything, to reconnect with our core values, and to envision a future that was both ambitious and deeply rooted in our community. As I sat in my office, looking out over the bustling floor of our flagship store, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. We had taken a challenging moment and turned it into an opportunity for growth and renewal. We had redefined what it meant to be a successful business in the modern world, proving that it was possible to grow and evolve without losing sight of what truly matters. The journey wasn't over, of course. There would be new challenges to face, new opportunities to seize. But I knew that whatever came our way, we were ready. We had a strong foundation, a clear vision, and a team that was committed to making a difference. As I packed up my things to head home, I paused to look at a framed photo on my desk. It was a picture of my dad, standing proudly in front of the original Thompson's tools and more. I smiled, knowing that while our business had grown far beyond what he could have imagined, we were still, at our core, the same company he had built, one dedicated to serving our community and empowering people to build better lives. With a renewed sense of purpose and an unwavering resolve, I stepped out into the evening, ready to face whatever the future might greatest chapter yet. And I couldn't wait to see what we would achieve next. The dawn of a new fiscal year brought with it a sense of anticipation and excitement. The initiatives we had put in place over the past months were starting to show promise, but I knew we had only scratched the surface of our potential. It was time to kick things into high gear and truly reverse our fortunes. I called an early morning meeting with our executive team. As they filed into the conference room, coffee cups in hand and curiosity in their eyes, I could feel the energy in the air. This was the moment to unveil the next phase of our transformation. "Good morning, everyone," I began, standing at the head of the table. "I hope you're all ready for an exciting day because we're about to embark on our most ambitious journey yet." I laid out my vision for what I called our Community Catalyst Initiative. It was a comprehensive plan that would not only solidify our position in the market, but also redefine what it meant to be a community-centric business. The first part of the plan involved a significant expansion of our Community Builders program. We would be partnering with local colleges and trade schools to offer apprenticeship programs, providing hands-on experience to students while also cultivating a pipeline of skilled workers for our stores and the communities we served. Sarah, our head of marketing, raised her hand. "This is fantastic, David. But how do we ensure we're reaching the right students and schools?" It was a valid question, and one I had anticipated. "Great point, Sarah. I want us to form a dedicated outreach team. They'll be responsible for building relationships with educational institutions, attending career fairs, and creating tailored programs for different communities. We're not just waiting for talent to come to us, we're actively nurturing it." The next part of the plan focused on technology. We had already made strides with our app, but I wanted to take it further. "Jason," I said, turning to our IT director, "I want us to develop a virtual reality platform for home improvement. Imagine customers being able to visualize renovations in their own homes before making a purchase. We'll be the first in our industry to offer this on a large scale." Jason's eyes lit up at the challenge. "That's a game changer, David. It'll require significant investment in both hardware and software development, but the potential is enormous." I nodded, acknowledging the scale of the task. "Exactly. And that's why I want you to head up a new division dedicated solely to this project. We're not just keeping up with technology, we're pushing it forward." As we continued to discuss the details of the plan, I could see the excitement building in the room. Each team member began to see how their department could contribute to and benefit from these new initiatives. Mark, our operations manager, brought up a crucial point. "David, these are all incredible ideas, but how do we implement them without disrupting our day-to-day operations? We can't afford to lose focus on our core business." It was a concern I had grappled with myself. "You're absolutely right, Mark. That's why I want to create a separate task force for each major initiative. These teams will work alongside our regular operations, allowing us to pursue these new directions without dropping the ball on our existing commitments." The meeting stretched on for hours as we hashed out the details of each aspect of the plan. By the time we wrapped up, the sun was high in the sky, and we had a comprehensive roadmap for the next 2 years. As the team filed out, energized and chattering about their roles in the new plan, Emily, our HR director, hung back. "David," she said, a mix of excitement and concern in her voice, "this is incredible, truly. But it's going to require a massive effort from everyone. How do we keep morale high and prevent burnout?" I smiled, appreciating her foresight. "That's where you come in, Emily. I want you to develop a comprehensive employee wellness program. Think beyond the usual, gym memberships and health insurance. I'm talking about mental health support, flexible working hours, sabbaticals for long-term employees. Our people are going to be the engine driving this transformation, and we need to take care of them." Emily nodded, already jotting down ideas. "I'm on it. We'll set a new standard for employee care in the industry." As I watched her leave, I felt a surge of pride. This team, these people, they were the reason I knew we could pull off this ambitious plan. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. We hit the ground running, implementing our new initiatives with a fervor that energized the entire company. The apprenticeship program was an immediate hit, with local schools eager to partner with us. We started small, with 5 stores participating in the pilot program, but the response was overwhelmingly positive. I'll never forget the day I visited one of our stores in Riverside to check on the progress of the apprenticeship program. As I walked through the aisles, I saw a young woman, probably in her early 20s, patiently explaining the intricacies of different power tools to an older gentleman. Her knowledge was impressive, but what struck me most was the pride in her voice as she spoke. Later, I learned her name was Aisha, and she was one of our first apprentices. "Mr. Thompson," she said when we were introduced, her eyes shining with enthusiasm, "I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I've always been interested in construction and home improvement, but I never thought I'd have a chance to learn from experts like this." Aisha's words stayed with me, reinforcing my belief in the power of our new direction. We weren't just building a better business, we were opening doors for people who might otherwise never have had these opportunities. The virtual reality platform, which we named Home Vision, was a more challenging undertaking. There were technical hurdles to overcome, and at times it seemed like we were trying to do the impossible. But Jason and his team were relentless in their pursuit of excellence. 6 months into development, Jason invited me to test an early prototype. As I slipped on the VR headset, I found myself standing in a virtual living room. With a few simple gestures, I was able to change the color of the walls, swap out furniture, and even knock down walls to open up the space. "This is incredible," I breathed as I took off the headset. "It's like being able to test drive a renovation." Jason beamed with pride. "And this is just the beginning. We're working on incorporating real-time cost estimates and links to our inventory. Customers will be able to design their dream space and know exactly what it'll cost and whether we have the materials in stock." As our new initiatives gained traction, we began to see a shift in public perception. Local news outlets started running stories about our apprenticeship program and the impact it was having on the community. Our store saw an uptick in foot traffic as people came in to try out the Home Vision platform, often making purchases while they were there. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. About 8 months into our transformation, we hit a significant snag. A major supplier, spooked by the scale of our changes, decided to pull out of our partnership. It was a blow that threatened to derail our progress. I called an emergency meeting with our procurement team. "All right," I said, pacing the room, "this is a setback, but it's also an opportunity. I want us to look into partnering with smaller, local suppliers. It'll be more work to manage multiple relationships, but it'll also allow us to offer more unique, locally sourced products." The team rose to the challenge magnificently. Within weeks, we had formed partnerships with dozens of local suppliers across our various locations. This not only solved our immediate supply problem, but also added another layer to our community-centric approach. 1 year into our strategic counterattack, we held a company-wide town hall to assess our progress. As I stood on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces, employees, partners, and community members, I felt a sense of awe at what we had accomplished. A year ago, I began, my voice carrying across the hushed auditorium. We set out on an ambitious journey. We promised to not just grow our business, but to grow our communities along with us. Today, I'm proud to say that we've not only met that promise, but we've exceeded it. I went on to share the numbers. Our revenue had increased by 30%, customer satisfaction was at an all-time high, and employee retention had improved significantly. But more than that, I shared stories of apprentices like Aisha who had found their calling, of small local suppliers whose businesses had flourished through our partnerships, of customers whose lives had been improved through our products and services. As I concluded my speech, I could feel the energy in the room. This wasn't just a business success, it was a community triumph. We had taken a company that was at risk of losing its way and transformed it into a beacon of innovation and community engagement. The next board meeting was a stark contrast to the tense gatherings of the past. As I presented our results, I could see the pride and excitement in the eyes of our board members. Even those who had been skeptical of our new direction were now fully on board. But the moment that truly brought home the magnitude of our transformation came after the meeting. As we were packing up, one of our longest-serving board members, a man who had known my father and had been initially resistant to many of our changes, approached me. "David," he said, his voice gruff with emotion, "I owe you an apology. When you started all this, I thought you were going to run your father's company tears to my eyes. In that moment, I realized that we had done more than just reverse our fortunes. We had honored our past while blazing a trail into the future. As I drove home that evening, my mind was already racing with ideas for our next phase of growth. But more than that, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. We had faced a crisis, a moment when everything could have fallen apart. Instead, we had used it as a catalyst for positive change. The insult that had once shaken my world had become the impetus for our greatest success. We had not just survived, we had thrived. And in doing so, we had created a model for what a truly community-centric business could be in the 21st century. As I pulled into my driveway, I saw Rachel waiting for me on the porch, a smile on her face. She knew how important this day had been. As I stepped out of the car, she wrapped me in a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "You did it." I hugged her back, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over me. "No," I replied, "we did it. All of us together." And as we walked into our home, I knew that this was just the beginning. We had reversed our fortunes, yes, but more importantly, we had set a new course, one that would continue to create value, opportunity, and positive change for years to come. As I sit here in my office, looking out over the bustling floor of our flagship store, I can't help but marvel at the journey that has brought us to this point. It's been 3 years since that fateful dinner when Linda's words shook my world to its core. 3 years of challenges, triumphs, and profound personal and professional growth. The view from where I sit now is vastly different from what it was then, and I find myself in a reflective mood, pondering the twists and turns that have led us here. The morning sun streams through the window, casting a warm glow over the framed photos on my desk. There's one of the original Thompson's tools and more, my father standing proudly in front of the modest storefront. Next to it, a recent photo of our entire team at the grand opening of our 50th store. The contrast between these two images tells a story of transformation, not just of our business, but of myself as a leader and a person. I pick up the phone and dial Rachel's number. When she answers, I can hear the smile in her voice. "Hey, honey, everything okay?" "Everything's great," I reply. "I was just thinking, do you remember that dinner 3 years ago? The one with your mom?" There's a pause on the other end of the line. How could I forget? It was awful at the time, but looking back, it was a turning point, wasn't it? I nod, even though she can't see me. It really was. I was thinking we should invite your parents over for dinner this weekend, to show them how far we've come. "That's a wonderful idea," Rachel says warmly. "I'll give them a call." "And David? I'm so proud of you." As I hang up the phone, I feel a wave of emotion wash over me. Pride, yes, but also gratitude and a deep sense of how far we've come. I decide to take a walk through the store to ground myself in the reality of what we've built. As I step onto the sales floor, I'm greeted by the buzz of activity. Customers browse the aisles, many of them using our Home Vision VR headsets to visualize their renovation projects. I overhear a young apprentice patiently explaining the differences between various types of wood stain to an elderly couple. In the DIY workshop area, a class on basic plumbing is in full swing, the instructor's voice carrying over the sound of wrenches and pipes. I make my way to the customer service desk, where I see Maria, one of our longest-serving employees, deep in conversation with the customer. As I approach, I catch the tail end of their discussion. And that's why we stand behind every product we sell, Maria is saying. "If it doesn't meet your needs, we'll make it right." The customer, a middle-aged man with paint-spattered work boots, nods appreciatively. "You know, that's why I keep coming back. Here, it's not just about buying stuff. It's about the service, the knowledge. You folks really care." As the customer walks away, Maria turns to me with a smile. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. Beautiful day, isn't it?" I nod, returning her smile. "It certainly is, Maria. You handled that customer beautifully. You really embody what we're all about here." Maria's eyes sparkle with pride. "Well, I learned from the best. Your father always said that we're not just selling tools, we're helping people build their dreams. And you've taken that to a whole new level." Her words hit me hard, reminding me of how far we've come and the legacy we're building on. I thank her and continue my walk through the store, mind drifting back to the challenges we've faced and overcome. I remember the sleepless nights in the early days of our transformation, wondering if we were making the right choices. The anxiety when our major supplier pulled out, and the exhilaration when our network of local suppliers proved to be an even better solution. The pride I felt when our first batch of apprentices completed their programs and became full-time employees, many of them going on to leadership positions within our company. As I round a corner, I almost bump into Jake, the high school kid who had started as a part-time employee and is now heading up our social media team. He's in animated discussion with a group of college students, explaining our latest community initiative. And that's why we're partnering with the local makerspaces, Jake is saying. We want to support grassroots innovation in every community we serve. It's not just about selling tools, it's about fostering creativity and problem-solving skills. I hang back, not wanting to interrupt, but feeling a swell of pride at Jake's words. This is exactly the kind of thinking that has driven our transformation. We're not just a retailer anymore. We're a catalyst for community growth and individual empowerment. As I continue my walk, I find myself in our Heritage Corner, a space we've dedicated in each store to showcasing local history and our company's evolution. I pause in front of a display about my father, reading the plaque that outlines his philosophy and approach to business. Tom Thompson believed that a hardware store was more than just a place to buy tools. It was a community hub, a place where dreams took shape and skills were shared. He built Thompson's tools and more on the foundation of personal service, quality products, and a deep commitment to the community. Reading these words, I feel a lump form in my throat. There were times, in the midst of our rapid growth and transformation, when I had worried that we were straying too far from Dad's vision. But standing here now, I realize that we haven't abandoned his principles at all. We've expanded on them, adapting them for a new era while staying true to their core. My reflections are interrupted by the arrival of Sarah, our head of marketing. David, she says, slightly out of breath, I've been looking for you. We just got the results of our latest community impact survey. I turn to her, curious. We've been conducting these surveys regularly to gauge how our initiatives are affecting the communities we serve. And? How do they look? Sarah's face breaks into a wide grin. They're incredible. 95% of respondents say that our presence has had a positive impact on their community. Employment rates in areas where we've opened new stores have increased by an average of 7%. And get this, in communities where we've been running our apprenticeship programs, we're seeing a 15% increase in young people pursuing trades and technical education. I feel a rush of emotion at these numbers. They're more than just statistics. They represent real lives changed, real communities strengthened. That's amazing, Sarah. We need to share this with the whole team. As Sarah hurries off to prepare a company-wide announcement, I find myself drawn back to my office. I need a moment to process everything, to really take in how far we've come. Sitting at my desk, I open my bottom drawer and pull out a small, leather-bound journal. It's the same notebook where, 3 years ago, I had scribbled my first ideas for transforming our company in the wake of Linda's harsh words. I flip through the pages, smiling at the ambitious plans and wild ideas, some of which have become reality, others that proved impractical, but led us to even better solutions. On the last written page, I find a quote I had jotted down during those turbulent early days of our transformation. It's from Theodore Roosevelt. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds. Reading these words now, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. Yes, we've had our stumbles. Yes, there have been critics and naysayers along the way, but we've stayed in the arena, we've kept striving, and the results speak for themselves. I pick up a pen and, on the next blank page, I begin to write. 3 years ago, words meant to wound became the catalyst for our greatest transformation. We took a moment of crisis and turned it into an opportunity for growth, not just for our business, but for our employees, our customers, and our communities. We've learned that true success is positive change we create in the world. We've discovered that honoring our past doesn't mean being bound by it. Instead, it means taking the best of what came before and using it as a foundation to build something even greater. Most importantly, we've realized that a business can be more than just a provider of goods and services. It can be a force for good, a catalyst for personal and community growth, a place where dreams take shape and skills are nurtured. As we look to the future, we do so with humility, knowing that there will always be new challenges to face and new heights to reach. But we also look ahead with confidence, secure in the knowledge that we have built something truly special, a business that doesn't just serve communities, but helps them thrive. As I finish writing, I hear a knock at my door. I look up to see Rachel standing there, a soft smile on her face. Ready to go? My parents will be at the house in an hour. I nod, closing the journal and standing up. As we walk out of the office together, I feel a sense of anticipation. This dinner will be so different from the one 3 years ago. Not because of any desire for revenge or to prove anyone wrong, but because we have a story of growth and transformation to share. As we drive home, Rachel reaches over and squeezes my hand. You know, she says, I was thinking about what Mom said that night. About you being a useless, freeloading money sucker. I wince slightly at the memory, but Rachel continues, it was so wrong, so unfair. But in a way, I'm almost grateful she said it, because look at all that's come from it. You took those words and used them as fuel to create something amazing. I nod, feeling a complex mix of emotions. You're right, it's strange to think about, but that moment of pain led to all of this growth. I just hope your mom can see how far we've come. As we pull into our driveway, I see Linda and Bob's car already parked there. For a moment, I feel a flutter of nervousness in my stomach. But then I take a deep breath, reminding myself of all we've accomplished, of the journey we've been on. We walk into the house, and there they are, Linda and Bob, standing in our living room. Linda looks nervous, almost apprehensive. But as our eyes meet, I feel no anger, no desire for retribution. Instead, I feel a sense of peace and even gratitude. Linda, Bob, I say, stepping forward with a smile, it's so good to see you. We have so much to catch up on. Let me tell you about what we've been up to these past few years. As we sit down to dinner and I begin to share our story, I realize that this is the true meaning of redemption. It's not about proving critics wrong or seeking revenge. It's about growth, about taking moments of adversity and using them as catalysts for positive change. It's about staying true to your values while having the courage to evolve and adapt. Our journey isn't over. There will be new challenges to face, new heights to reach. But as I look around the table at my family, I feel a deep sense of contentment and excitement for what lies ahead. We've come so far, and yet, in many ways, we're just getting started. The future is bright, full of possibility, and I can't wait to see where it takes us next.